So in order to add the credentials to this JList here, we have to first know exactly how this JList works. And we can use the internet to provide us with some help. So we're going to go to Google, and then we're just going to search how to add items to our JList. And usually a site like Stack Overflow should have the answers to your programming questions. So let's click that and see. So the top answer says to populate it with something called a default list model. And there's an example here. So let's just copy and paste this in our code. And let's paste it here. So first we need to import this default list model and this JList class as well. And to quickly import all of those, we just go to Fix Imports. We right click our code and then click Fix Imports. So now those two have been added to our code. In the example here, they're adding one element called Add Element. So just test this out. Let's add another element here. We'll just call this Add Elements 2. And we already have a JList here, so we don't really need to create a new one here. So instead, we're going to reference the JList that we have. And I believe it was called JList1. And then let's look for a method called set model. The model is going to be this demo list variable. So let's run our code one more time. Let's see if this actually did something. And as you can see, it looks like this is how we can add elements to our JList. So instead of all of these hard-coded elements, you want to add the credential descriptions from our vault. So let's loop through all the elements in our vault and extract the description fields. Okay, so now we have a for loop here that basically adds the description of each credential inside our vault. So let's test this out and see how it looks. Okay, looks good. So since we're going to be displaying the elements in our vault quite often, let's create a method for this. Okay, so now we no longer need this display all method, and let's modify this variable name to make it more appropriate for our program. So whenever we need to refresh the list, we just need to call the method. So we're going to call this refresh list method when this is being created, this user interface is being created, and also right after we save a password. So our program is coming together nicely. Now what we need to do is just make sure that whenever we click any one of these items, we basically get the information populated here. So let's figure out how to do that. So if we go into our design view, under the events tab, for the JList, we should find an event called mouse clicked, which is right here. So we're just going to click into this. So now whenever we click an item inside the JList, this is going to be executed. So first, what we want to determine is what actually got clicked. And the JList object has a method that we can use to determine that. And it's called getSelectedValue. So just so that we can see that this works, we're going to print out whatever the selected value is whenever we click any item inside this JList. So let's run our code. So as you can see, if I hit Gmail, you see Gmail here. So now we can get data on what is being clicked. So now let's figure out what we're going to do with that information. First, let's assign it to a variable, and we'll call this selected. And now we're going to create a for loop, which is going to go through all the credentials inside our vault. And if we find, or if we see that there's a match for the selected credential, then we're just going to populate these fields here. So now if there's a match, we're just going to populate the fields with whatever data is in this matching credential. So let's go ahead and run our code and test that out. As you can see, once we click this, the correct information is displayed. So far we are able to add items to our credential vault, and we're able to display those items. Next, we're going to talk about how we can search or filter through these items. So suppose we have several different credentials inside our credential vault. It'll be useful to be able to search through these or filter some of these credentials so that we can easily find what we are looking for. So we're going to create another method here, which will be responsible for search. And basically what we're going to do is, once again, use a for loop to go through each credential in our vault. And then we're going to determine if any of these descriptions contains our search term. And then if it does, then we will add it to the list of credentials to display. So it's going to be fairly similar to this refresh list method over here. So we can start with the code here. So the only difference between these two methods here is that here I'm adding an if statement to filter for this search term. So now we just need to figure out a way to determine when a user is typing something in this search box. And as the user types some text inside the search box, the list will be updated. Try key released. So let's paste this in here. Yeah, so now when I click T, it automatically updates. Okay. So one final thing I want to do with this search box is to make it so that it's not case sensitive. Okay. So for instance, if I type uppercase T, I still want anything that contains T to be displayed, right? So that would include Hotmail, which contains a T here. So let's go ahead and add that functionality. So here we want to compare the lowercase version. So we use the 2 lowercase and we want to compare it against the lowercase version of our search term. So now if I run my program again, so now if I type uppercase T, I get the expected results. I can still see the lowercase ones, and the lowercase t will also give me the exact same results. So that's good. So we've done a lot so far. Right now we've been able to add credentials to this vault. We've been able to display the credentials that we've added. We are able to filter out the list of the credentials that we have. And next we'll talk about updating the credentials.